This is Kalc. Of the Admiration series with a focus in creative women in business in collaboration with Kalc. And today on the show, I am so excited to announce I've got photographer, artist, teacher, and just all round like incredible creative goddess Pari joining us. Hello, Pari.
Kalia, how are you?
Oh, I'm so well. How are you? You look incredible in your space.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
A little bit nervous, but let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You look like the picture perfect in your space.
Awesome.
It's amazing. No, you're very welcome.
Not too much patterns, you think?
It's perfect. It's exactly how I envision you, to be honest. So it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's so wonderful to have you on the show. And really, when I was drafting this series, you automatically came to mind as someone I really admire, like really admire, not just for the wonderful all-rounded artistic skills that you have. So not just your photography skills, your fine art, your illustrations, graphic design, teaching. I mean, honestly, Pari, is there anything that you can't do? I just was
there's a lot.
listing off so many things. But really, I think what I admire the most about you is your truth, your resilience, your bravery, and what it is that you stand for. I feel like that really comes across as a creative woman in business. And you and I, we haven't really known each other for that long in the big scheme of time and life. But you and I have had many wonderful conversations before in the short time that we have known each other. And one comes to mind that honestly, it gives me goosebumps when I think about it, because it completely, totally, and utterly just changed my life, that conversation. And really, it put me on this course to move back to Europe, to follow my dreams, and also to initiate this series. So thank you for that. Thank you for that conversation. And I remember during that conversation, you made me feel just so at ease, so empowered. And essentially, you allowed me to just truly talk, to find my voice. And that was probably the first point where I decided, like, this is a good thing to talk up. So I think it's just such a pleasure to be speaking with you today, and for our listeners to hear what you have to say, because I do truly believe the way that you really inspired me to find my voice during that conversation. I think that you'll be able to do that for our listeners today. So it's so wonderful to have you on the show, really.
Oh my gosh, this is so nice. Are you talking to me?
Yeah, 100%, 100% talking to you.
That is lovely. So, I remember our chat as well. So you talk about finding your voice, and it's a huge thing. I think even for artists, it's amazing, like how you find your own voice and you tell your own story to the world through your art. Mm-hmm. But even as a woman, I think it's important to find that. So yeah, absolutely.
And you're a real empowerer of that, I believe, just purely by leading it by example of who you are. So I'm so excited for our listeners to just find more out about you today. And really, I guess the first thing I want to ask is, when did you decide to pursue a creative career? And at what point did you go from sort of knowing what you know to teaching what you know?
It's really interesting because it was not a point in my life that I said, okay, I'm now going to go pursue my career as an artist or a creative. I think it all goes back to, I think everybody goes back to their early memories and childhood. And I think the most important thing that I was really lucky with was my parents and my family, because they were always encouraging me. Especially in my culture, because having a career and being, earning a lot of money, it's a huge thing. But they always encouraged me to follow what I like, and I really, really appreciate them for that. I remember I was like, I don't know, 5, and I would just make something, like draw something, and it would just, my dad would take it to the barber, and he would just talk about my art, and it was not even good. So I tell you this. And I was like so embarrassed, but I think deep down inside, it gave me a lot of security about what I have to say. So that I was really lucky with that. I've always been encouraged. And when I finished primary school, because it's a little bit different from back in Iran, because I'm from Iran, and when we finished primary school and middle high school, we could just go to vocational school, which is you don't learn any chemistry, you don't learn any physics. It's just you jump into learning the craft. And for a lot of people, it's a very big risk because your future may be, you can't go to university, you can't get good marks. But I just told my parents and they're like, yeah, go for it. And I was like, yay. So I went in and I think started learning the crafts when I was 13 as a graphic designer. So this shows how old I am. So it's like illustrating with hands and, gouache and graphic design and analog photography. And then because there's 4 years of high school, and the second year, I just thought that I want something more structured. Mm-hmm. So it was something in me that I wanted something that is more like drafting and lines and rulers and, all these shapes that I can just, I can create something that really makes sense structurally for me. I started going to uni and I decided to study industrial design, which also was a lot working with hands and doing the crafts from welding, working with wood, and just understanding how color works and space works and things in space and movement in space and how things function and working with chalk. And so everything we did welding, which I was really proud of doing, because it's a big thing and it's a very, practical thing. So these things and working with plastic, I think all of this really showed me I really I like making things and I like, creating things. And then it was a good thing because it gave me a lot of, it was multidisciplinary. So it was not like you were focusing on one thing or one discipline of design, but it was more like understanding design and space in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I was always, like, going back to your question, I was always immersed in these things, and people who I was with, they were all artists and designers. I can never say that I was a very talented person. I really say that, and I proudly say that. But I had a lot of ambition, and I think I wanted to learn. And I saw these friends that were great at drawing, and I was really bad. But I just kept going. And I found ways to do it. Like, you draw it for me, or things like that. So I think that was that when I got into it. And then for a duration of time, I got into teaching English to adults. So I did that when I finished high school because my English was good back home, and I started teaching, and I love that sharing knowledge, and I love that people are understanding this. And language is great because it's not just the language, but it's a door to a new culture and, expanding your world. So I think all of this came to having that passion for growth. Mm-hmm. And I can never, as I said, I was never perfect at things, but I just tried and I never gave up. So that was a good quality in me. It still is. And then I just moved to Australia again. Like, it was I had like graphic design jobs, but I was teaching as well. And I really liked the teaching part more. So I did more teaching than design. And I moved to Australia to study Masters of Advertising. I was like, I'm going to go to this, area, and I want to talk about advertising. Came here, did a few, semesters, and I was like, this is too competitive. Like, I want everyone to grow together. Like, it must have changed now, but it was very competitive. It was difficult. So I made a decision to change paths, and I studied Master of Business.
Oh, wow.
So listen to this.
Wow.
For someone who has always been immersed in studying art, I just went and studied system analysis and, marketing, managing people, and I hated it. Oh. I really, really did. I was like miserable. I was like, I can't understand this language. But then And then I finished my degree and I did another degree, which was commerce as well, but it was for visa reasons. So it was not that I was crazy about commerce, but that really changed the way I looked at things in the future. So when I started working as a graphic designer, after a year, I got into the management role. And I think that degree really helped me do that. And I started growing other people. And so I think growth and design was always together. So I can't say I had a plan to have a career in design, but it just happened. And I think the goals that I would set unconsciously was always these things. And I got into it, and then changing a little bit, but then the same thing. So so that's how I got into it, and I got, I'm still in it.
I didn't know that you studied industrial design. I studied that as well. So really.
I think I remember you told me that.
Yeah, and I think it's an incredible foundation degree. It shows you just so many different skills and is so multidisciplinary. I think I wrote down a couple of things. I think a door to a new culture. My goodness, what a wonderful way to describe about languages, and also this growth and design. I think it doesn't surprise me that you've sort of transitioned into teaching instead of like knowing what you know into teaching what you know. So how long ago has it been that you actually made that sort of formal transition into teaching?
Here in Australia.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to study, and I had to teach, and I had a great job, and I loved the job that I had, but then I had this opportunity to go as a guest, as a sessional lecturer, because I talked to a friend that I knew, and I said, I want to get into this. This is great. You share your knowledge with people, you get creative. So it was all like, I knew someone that said, do you want to teach this? And I went in 4th week into the trimester in the middle of everything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to teach you guys now. Yeah. So it was why, I don't know. It's if you want something, I think deep down, and you always put it out there, because I talked to a lot of people that I really want to teach. And even in my last job, I always wanted to do learning and development, training, and, sharing that. But then doing it as a job now, I'm so lucky. I can't even believe it's been a year now, over a year, but I love it because it's challenging, and teaching is like, it's difficult because you can't go in there and be a teacher, but it's more, you have to go as a mindset of a student, because student, like, you can't say I'm a student, I'm going to teach you, but it's more like, it's not that I know everything, but let's learn it together. Yeah. And it's just the mindset of, I may make mistakes, I may not know, and that's okay. And, going in there and teaching as a person with English as a second language is also vulnerable, but I use it in a way, and I say, guys, you just tell me what is this word, and they always do, and they laugh, and they like that. But then when I want to grade them, I'm really, really bad. Like, I'm really, I'm really like cutthroat. But just don't, anyway. But yes, I think it's the mindset of, it's okay, I don't know everything, but let's learn together. And honestly, some classes, I have to tell you, like last week, and I tell you why I got into this, I'm teaching business, and I had to teach cash flow. I'm like, what is cash flow? 10 years ago, I studied business, and I had to study it again, all over again. And I had to just come up with creative ways for creatives to understand what is cash flow if they want to set up their own businesses. So that I was learning that as well. And I was like, yes, I did it. And I think they got it. So that was a success. Wow. But I think that's the mindset of, more than I know, it's changed. I think teaching has changed, because it's less about I know more than you, but it's more about I can guide you how to find these resources and learn more. I can challenge you. I can coach you through this problem that you have, and not give you an exam, not give you the answer, but mostly guide you through the ways and the paths to find the answer.
Wow. Your students are very lucky, Pari.
I think I'm lucky too, because I get to learn, and every class you go in, you get insecure. It's like, oh my God, I don't know. But when you go in and with an open mind, it works, and I hope they're taking something out of that as well.
Yeah,
I can only get better. I can only say that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think looking at you in this space that you're in today, this is very much how I sort of envision you when I close my eyes and I think about you. I think about you in these kind of bold patterns and prints. And one of the first things I think about is you in a lot of Marimekko prints. So I know that this design house absolutely inspires you, but I want to know a bit more about who you're inspired by and where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, okay, all right. Let me see. There's a lot. So I think when you find the eye to understand things differently, like visually or I don't know, in a deeper level, you can get inspiration from anything. I think. But for me, of course, people are a great source of inspiration because, I think you agree as well. That's why you're telling other people's story, and I think that is a huge thing because as the saying goes, every person is like an untold story. And when you meet someone, it's like on that superficial level, you never know what has happened to them, that they're sitting now in front of you, and what is their life journey. So that really inspires me. And I think that's what brings the photography as a passion for me, because I love that storytelling and what is behind this person that is sitting in front of. I want to know them and I want to get inspired by them. So I think that's one main thing that I can say. Well, of course, visual journals and books and imagery and art, lots of artists inspire me. I don't know if you want me to name the artists or not, but there's a lot that I was actually watching one artist. I don't know if you know him, but it's Olafur Eliasson, who is a Danish was in Iceland. He is an artist, a visual artist, but he works with nature. And he's amazing. Like, he's mind-blowing. I've watched it on Netflix. It's on Abstract if anyone wants to go and check it out. But like the way he looks at world, it's not just art, but he talks about how your creation with the let me see if I can say that word right. Spectators, a person who sees, I don't know if that's the right word. These two together make your art because you both collaborate with each other. Like, he has this amazing view about how art works, and also talks about how reality is a relative thing, and reality is something that you make of it. And I've actually written down one of his quotes that I want to share with you. And we say, when you believe that reality is relative, it is possible to change.
Wow.
So you can even change the reality and the story of the reality that you're telling yourself, or telling the world is telling themselves. So that was like, wow, amazing. So yeah, for listeners, watch the Ice Project. It's great. So go and check that out. So lots of artists, also inspire me. Well, of course, my kids inspire me because they are playful. They bring you to the present. No matter how low you are or how happy you are or how engaged you are in your work, 1 second of, mommy, I'm hungry. Like, do this, let's do this, or let's dance. Like, all of this brings you to that present moment. Yeah. And that's something that we can really, as busy people, we can be really out of touch. So that's something that I'm enjoying, and it helps me play more playful as well. And they don't have anything against different colors and patterns. So amazing.
That's so fantastic. And it's so great you've brought up like the photography and then also your children, because I see how much energy kind of goes into these two things. And, you know, I really believe that with your photography specifically, you achieve such a true harmony and balance between family and creative pursuits, which it just really comes through in your work in the newborn and the family lifestyle photography you've done before. Honestly, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so raw. It's so emotive. And quite frankly, like, it was very compelling. And I guess, you know, how do you actually capture that so much? Also, you know, output so much to your girls as well?
It's interesting because I started photography. I had crazy passion for photography. I never did it as a professional photographer before I came here. But at uni, when, you know, again, it shows how old I am, it was all analog. So we had to have our films. I think the first love was that when you go to that Lightroom and you develop your photos and they come up and you're like, what? And this red light. And it's like your senses are slowed down because you don't see, when you don't, I'm crazy about color, as you can see, but when you go into that light, like the dark room, it is like it's all taken away and it's just you and it's the red and the tones of the red. And it's like you have to do this and you have to know about the light. So that was very tactile and emotional. So I think that's where I got it. So even if I didn't have any photography lesson units, I would always go into the lab and develop my work more than anyone did. But then I never pursued it as a profession. So I came here and I was like, you know what? I had kids. And I was like, I'm taking photos of these guys, so I may as well like do it for others. And I started having my in-house studio, and I started working with strobes and artificial light. And I was like, something's missing, especially when it was digital. So I didn't experience that dark room. So I was like, no, something's missing here. I can't pose people. I can't do this. Like, I don't want to take photos of people against the white background and make them pose. I understand some people do it and it's their thing. It was not satisfying me. So then I had a chat with a friend and she was like, you know what? I think have you checked this kind of lifestyle? And I went there and I was like, oh my God, this is what I want. And I started looking at, okay, what is it that really I enjoy from it? And I was like, this is more about the stories that people do not tell. Like, it's that thing behind those eyes that people always hide. And we get really good at hiding them. So my vision, my why, I don't know what you call it, it just became like, I want to capture these moments where I have with my child and I'm like struggling, but then I love them at the same time, but I want to show that to the world. So I think that's where it all started. And I was like, yes, this is what I want. And it's challenging because people do not like to put themselves out there in front of the camera. They want to be perfect, and it's understandable. But I just made a mission for myself that as a photographer, I really, really want to capture those moments. And how do I do that? I want to talk about their story through mine. So what I tell you how it is, and I don't know if you know Jan Palmer, who's a photographer based in America, and she's a great lifestyle photographer. If you want to check her out. She really inspired me, and she talked about how you're telling your story through their story, and it all becomes art. Because photography, yes, everyone, like beautiful iOS cameras or whatever, Samsung cameras, they take amazing photos, but it's not about that anymore. That time is irrelevant. The way that you photograph things, it's more about what is it that you're telling. So that's where it came to, okay, what is my story? What is their story? And the between part is the art. And how do I do that? I basically tell myself the story. I say, okay, if I'm taking a photo of a father and a daughter, okay, let me go back and define that relation. How was my relationship with my dad? And what did I want from that? And I remember my memories with him. And I was like, I was always, yearning for his attention. I wanted him to be proud. And I wanted to be playful with him. And I wanted to touch him. So it was all these definitions. And what I do is I go to a client's home and I just say, okay, everyone, dad and daughter, you come here to the room, and I just sit them on the floor and say, just read a book. So I start to put them in a position that they feel like they start being comfortable with each other. And then all of a sudden they can just start reading books and they can laugh, and, the hand goes in the hair, and, the twirling starts. And I don't even say anything to them. I just be minimum, and I just hide so they can be themselves. And if I am lucky, I can capture a good moment of that. And another level I add to it is my visual elements, which is like movement or natural light, high contrast, the tones that I use. So all of this are the hows that I bring it in terms of editing, but the story is how I see it. And I see the potential in them, and I just hide away so they can be themselves. It's not that easy, I have to tell you, but it's a good challenge. Yes.
Wow. Honestly, Pari, just wow. When you were talking, I wrote down a few things, the stories that people do not tell, and they get really good at hiding them. I mean, I know you never photographed me, but honestly, when I think back to the conversations that we had, like, you're very skilled, very talented, because that's actually, what you did with me. And even talking about, this sort of middle part of the art and people telling their story through your story, I've just had a real big sort of light bulb moment, actually, how inspiring you really have been for me for this podcast and for this series, because as you sort of said before, a lot of this series is, creating, connecting and creating this kind of narrative around creative women. So wow, Pari, just thank you for sharing all that information and kind of continuing to support me even on my journey. So thank you, really.
That's okay. Thank you.
I think that, it's very obvious you have an incredible ability to authentically connect with others. I guess, how do you engage specifically your students in the learning process? Do you have any kind of tools, advice, techniques that you could give to other people?
In terms of students, I'm not good at it yet, because it's been, the way that we are at the moment, everything is online and it's really difficult to connect. But I think there are some tools that I can use for engaging them. We can do creative activities, getting them comfortable, getting them to trust. I think the most important thing is to gain that the trust with people. And that's a huge thing, because I read it somewhere that if you lose trust, it's like losing virginity. You can't gain it back. So it's difficult to maintain that. But I think having the trust is not just coming up from having a knowledge and saying, I know this, but it's more about being vulnerable and listening. I think creating that space for people to want to learn or want to connect. I think that's an important one. And whether it's students or others, I think it's important to create that space to say, you're safe here, you can share your vulnerability, and we're in it together. How can I help? So I try to do that. But yeah, it's challenging, like online platforms for teaching creative things. It's an impossible, but a lot of people like him, they're doing that, and they're doing it good job. And I think it remains to be something that we have to get better at it. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you, COVID. Teaching us all kind of new, different skills. I think
I'm going to just change the light because it's getting a bit dark in here.
That's okay. No problems at all. I think you've mentioned quite a bit about vulnerability. And I know that when I think about you, I always think that you have a really strong stance of what it means to be a woman and what it is that you stand for. And you've mentioned quite a little bit this word of vulnerability. So how is it that you're able to be so strong, but then also showcase vulnerability at the same time?
Do you think I do that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think upbringing is a huge thing. And I think, especially in my case and women similar to me, when you're always told by the society that you shouldn't talk, or you shouldn't, you shouldn't be louder than that, or you shouldn't be too colorful, or so you get that at the beginning. Maybe at the beginning of your journey, you become like, yeah, I can just stand on the line and walk on the line, and then you realize, okay, let me see, like, oh, is it like you start a question, and then you're like, oh, is there any good answer here? I don't think so. So no, I'm not going to do that. So I think mostly it's culturally, when you have that and you're brought up with that, you expect that you will not do that. But I think when you're suppressed in that way, you always find, and you come to an environment that you can be yourself and you can be big and colorful, you will use your chance, because you know that a lot of people don't have it. So I think, I think in a way, I'm grateful for being brought up the way I was, and I've learned a lot of resilience from that. And it's not only me; it's all the girls in Iran. And I think the ones that live here, they're all powerful, amazing girls, and that's, I think we owe it to the difficulties of growing up. But yeah, I think that's that. And then you learn that you somehow don't take it for granted what you have here in a society where you can, to some extent, express yourself the way that you are as a woman or as a creative. So you just don't take that for granted, and you choose every moment of it to just say, yeah, I have this chance, I'm going to use it. It's like you've been given wings, or you've been given a path to say, all right, you got great muscles, now go run. And you'll be like, yeah.
Absolutely. I think, you spoke about resilience, and I also see you as someone who's incredibly brave, incredibly raw and honest. I think, how have you used these sort of values to overcome like limiting beliefs, or overcome things that maybe you thought you couldn't do?
I don't have any of them. I'm just kidding.
Wow. I mean, it would be amazing. I would believe it, to be honest. It's incredible.
I think the braver you look, it's more the scared, I don't know, the most scared you are. But it's a choice. It's not like if you're brave today, you are brave tomorrow. You may not be brave tomorrow, or you may not have been brave yesterday, but I think it's about having a choice. I think, and this is something that I am working on myself. I'm not, by no means I'm saying I'm an expert into this, or I'm doing it perfectly, but I work on accepting myself in a non-judgmental way, and I am not even in 10%. So let me give you that. So it's not a brag, but I say I am on the path of doing that, because that's where you create that space to have a choice. And you say, I'm scared now, and that's okay. Yeah. What do you need? Like, do you ever tell yourself what you need? Do you need a hug, or do you need to go for a walk, or do you want to just in fetal position on bed, whatever that works for you? But then when you give yourself that chance and then that space, then you'll be like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go and, say yes to the podcast. Yeah. Because you've just accepted all of your flaws. And I said, it's only 10% that I'm there. So, but it's a work in progress, but it's an understanding of it's okay to be, I want to say shitting myself, but I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. And then yeah, oh my God, for like maybe 1 day or 2 day, you're like, and then you're like, okay, that's all right. And then you give yourself that space, and then you're like, okay, today is another day. What do you want to do today? Maybe you want to be brave about this today. Sure, let's do it together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge thing, and I think the relationship that you have with yourself is oh my God, it's the most difficult relationship to have, and you have to work. You have to invest on that, and then give yourself that chance to be even vulnerable with yourself and say, yeah, it was not perfect, but what can we do about it? Do you want to do this? Or yeah, mostly we say, oh, let's go have a drink. I'm just kidding.
Absolutely. 100%. Honestly, listening to hear you talk, I think these phrases that you have and almost these little pieces of advice that you're sort of getting throughout to myself and then also our listeners. I guess, do you have a piece of wisdom or advice specifically, maybe like for your girls, or I'm even thinking maybe for your students? You've spoken a lot in regards to how you've been very fortunate and grateful for the encouragement and support that you had when you were growing up. So yeah, I want to explore that more.
I think it just goes back again to what I was talking about, like this non-judgmental acceptance, which is really, it's a very, buzz statement. But for example, with my kids, we're going through some personal stuff, but they can get really upset. And you never want your kids to be upset because that hurts. That's painful. But then what I've learned to do is that I say, okay, we're all upset. Okay, that's fine. Let's put on some sad music and let's cry. And they're like, okay. So we put on some sad music, and trust me, 30 seconds in, they're like, can we put on something else? So it's again just giving that space to them to be okay if they have a feeling that they're not comfortable with, or it's painful for them, or if they're nervous, it's oh my God, you're again nervous. Because my older child is very nervous. So she's just so logical and always thinks things ahead of herself for 2 weeks as a 7-year-old. So at first I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with her? But now I'm like, you want to be nervous about this? Okay, fine. Let's just be nervous. Except teaching your kids to accept themselves, which is a huge thing. Like, accept that you're sad now and it's okay. You don't need to be ashamed of it. And I think it's for everyone, and it's for myself and my kids and everyone, listeners or whoever. It's like, you have to learn to do that. And then I think that's one thing that I want them to learn. That's the advice that I have for them all the time. And the second thing is that what do I do? Like, I just try to keep them, like, I try to encourage them to be themselves. Like, oh my God, the way they dress themselves, it's going to be like crazy. I'm like, are you sure? But then I just hold back and I say, fine, that's what you want to do. And I want to consciously choose for them to feel comfortable in their own skin and find their own voices, going back to that phrase.
Yeah. Wow. I think, just wow. Really thinking about it, probably the last thing I want to ask is just what's next for Pari? Is it more photography? Is it more teaching? Is it a new venture?
What's next is I've just come to a new thing. So I am working on that. I'm creating something where I'm teaching, which is the combination of design and entrepreneurship. And that's a new thing that I'm working and I'm creating. I'm helping co-create this bachelor's degree, which is a tough thing. So I just jumped into this. So that's not next, but that's what I am into, and I want to explore that more, and I want to be good at that. So that's what's happening at the moment.
Wow, that's really very exciting. You're not thinking about doing a master's as well, are you? I mean,
well, I've done my master's, but the PhD. Oh
I ask because I'm genuinely considering doing my master's in design, and that sounds amazing, design and entrepreneurship. So if you ever decide to teach a master's, you just let me know.
Okay. All right. One degree at a time. All right.
1 step at a time. With the vision to teach a master's, so Kalia can join the course. Okay, honestly, wow, Pari, I have wrote down so many different things, and actually there's quite a lot of ideas that I sort of have for the creative exercise. But I think what I really want to focus on is this idea about these 3 things, because it's come up quite a bit: vulnerability, honesty, and resilience. And so what I would like to do is I would like to explore these 3 things a lot more and tie them into skills that you already have, but then maybe transcending them into your teaching. And I think that we've been speaking quite a lot about transcending from knowing what you know to teaching what you know. And I think this exercise could be quite interesting to try and teach maybe how you capture some of these raw emotions in your work, and also might just be a good little reflective tool for yourself. So these 3 words, so vulnerability, honesty, and resilience. Have you ever heard of something before called an emoji map?
No, tell me what it is.
Okay, so an emoji map is basically when you draw a picture. So you just draw a picture of, can be your body, for example, just like a silhouette. And you can label these 3 things underneath those pictures. And it's an exercise effectively where you sort of close your eyes and just think about that word, say vulnerability. And you think about when you have that word with you, where in your body is it that you feel it? So is it in your stomach? Is it in your head? What kind of sensations do you have? And I would like you to do that exercise for vulnerability, honesty, and resilience. And then what I would like you to do is I'd like you to find a photograph. It could be a piece of graphic design maybe you've produced. It could even maybe be something that you're working on with your teaching course. And then what I would like you to do is, I believe in you. I would totally believe you can do this, but start to understand how maybe you could then translate that into the element of design and entrepreneurship, this kind of capturing of emotions. How would we be able to maybe get that into a teaching forum and support people to really be designers who are capturing these emotions. So what do you think?
Wow. All right. Yeah. Let's digest this.
You've given a lot in terms of your skill set. So I totally believe in you that you can absolutely do that. So what we'll do for our listeners is we'll take a break, and when we come back, you can share what you've got. Want to check out Pari Mayor's compelling raw photography? Then head over to pari-mayor.com. That's pari-mayor.com. Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got Pari back here, and I'm very excited to go through this creative exercise and see what you've done.
Okay, awesome. I got so much fun. I had to bring the wine in the middle as well. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers, absolutely. It's a bit earlier here in the UK, so I'm unfortunately cheersing with water, but happy to have some wine.
That's also acceptable. That's all right. But if it is a straight gin in there, I won't know because I can't smell it.
Yeah, exactly. The secret. Yeah, share with us your exercise. I'm so excited.
Okay. So the first part of the exercise was to do a bit of a meditation and mindfulness and see where you can feel those 3 words. So vulnerable, I just felt them everywhere. So wow. I just used this kirigami. I don't know if you know what kirigami is, like when you do, they cut the things and they make one little, so I thought they were together. So they're all the three of them together. So yeah, you know, when they fold the things and you cut them. So that's what I was thinking, and the hearts on them. I think the vulnerability was more like I'm closing my eyes, but I'm smiling, and I got crazy hair because, you know, I didn't want to put a face up, and then I'm feeling it everywhere, here and there and there and there. A bit of more like a poof, poof. Yes. But honesty for me is something that comes easier. So I feel like spots, and I'm comfortable with that, I think. And it's always in the middle for me because it's protected by the other ones. And the resilience is where it's just looking and see if these two are there, and it's just looking and see, are you guys present? And it's all like flowing. It's a bit childish, but it was fun. So yeah, there we go.
Cool. I love it.
So that was that one. And then one image of my work and some words I've put in. So vulnerability, with this image, it comes with motherhood pain. Basically, it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of joy, it's a lot of unknown, outlook, protectiveness, openness, being scared, but then you're still there. You have to do it anyway. So that stands out for me. And if you're lucky, you have another hand that holds you through that. That's awesome. And this poem is from Jan Palmer. I thought it was beautiful. I put it in. Maybe it's how my eyes look now: hopeful, scared, sensitive. Like I've just taken my clothes off for the first time in front of someone without hiding myself, and I'm begging with my eyes to be told I'm okay. I have let them see my vulnerability. Wow. So I thought that was awesome. I put them in. And then honesty, I think this picture for me has a very, very personal meaning. It's about how am I honest with myself, how am I coping, where am I standing, and all of that. So that's what stands for that, I think. And resilience, that's Ruby, my little child, and I think resilience is the bridge with a smile, basically. And it's all of those. I think all the three are together, but this one, these eyes show me resilience because she's very resilient.
Wow.
Okay. Right. And to the next one, bringing honesty, vulnerability, and resilience into what it means for entrepreneurs. I think a lot of us are mistaking entrepreneurship just for opening a business, but entrepreneurship is more than that. You see, I have put these three images that are very close to my heart. And the first one is the Black Lives Matter movement, which started with an entrepreneur. And there are social entrepreneurs who make changes in lives. And it's very difficult, and you have to put yourself out there, and you have to be really resilient to be able to cope through all the things that you hear. Yes. Tarana Burke, who is the entrepreneur behind, I say entrepreneur because I think that's a very, very sacred word. Yeah. Entrepreneur behind the Me Too movement. And she was the one that was talking, that really was vulnerable and put herself out there. And her vulnerability, I think, brought about other people to share what they did and the movement that they created. So I think in terms of when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's more about how can you influence and make a movement. And the other one, the Trashion, they call it Trash and Fashion. It is Marina de Vries, who is an Australian designer who uses rubbish from oceans and creates fashion. Okay. So check her out. She's quite awesome. But this is an entrepreneurship. Not only she has made a business for herself and her art is quite famous, she also is creating awareness and bringing light to this problem, which is very honest. I think the way that she is designing it is it's honesty at on the plate, literally. Wow. Yeah. And then I got another quote from Seth Godin, who is a marketing guru, who is a amazing entrepreneur, and says the only thing worse than starting something and failing is not starting something. So that's also related to entrepreneurship, I think.
Yeah.
And I got another one that is entrepreneurship is a mindset, and it comes from vulnerability, honesty, and resilience. Because when I can learn anything I want to. That's the conversation you have with yourself when you're an entrepreneur. When I'm frustrated, I persevere. I want to challenge myself. When I fail, I learn. Tell me I try hard. If you succeed, I'm inspired. My effort and attitude determine everything. So, yeah, that's what I would teach in terms of these 3 words in entrepreneurship.
So when does the course start then? When are you hoping to?
Well, it has I'm bringing some of that into the current things that I'm teaching, but we are hoping to do that next year. But there's a lot of, there's a lot behind it. And so entrepreneurship is like this the thing that I'm really researching on, and you find amazing things about it and amazing influential people who are really living these 3 words that we talk about.
Wow. Well, Pari, you've done such an incredible job with this creative exercise. Thank you so much for just being so involved and sharing so much of your wealth of knowledge and experience. I'm positive that our listeners will gather so much from what you've shared today. And also, maybe some future students of yours in the making too. Definitely me, if you create a master's program, that would be amazing. So Thank you again so much, Pari.
Thank you. It was fun. It was such a pleasure. And I hope we can have a drink together one day.
Absolutely. 100% virtual drink will be great. Okay. Take care, Pari.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Process-based, co-creating transformation and delivering results. Curious for more? Then head over to Instagram. That's Kalc __ on Instagram.